Hey guys, I'm finally here. I was late, but I was dealing with some stuff, as in I had to get coffee and I didn't check the time. And I'm extremely lazy. I was on a phone call. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But we are here now to look for, we are here to wait in anticipation for what is going to obviously just be a coronation for Mark Carney. Yeah, so it's going, oh goodness, come on. Okay, here we go. If you guys want to see that on the side, I don't think it really matters too much. So, what are your guys' predictions? Is Mark Carney going to win, or is Mark Carney really going to win? And hello, everyone. Uh, my goodness. But yeah, my prediction right now. Maybe everyone drop me your predictions. Who do you think is going to win? And it's going to go to a second ballot, or it's just going to be decided on first. I think if Mark Carney doesn't get above 60% on first ballot, this is going to be a deep embarrassment. Nolan Peak predicts Chandra Arya wins by a landslide. 100% of the first ballot goes to Carney. Kyle says 14-year-olds were allowed to vote in this. Yes, the problem is 14-year-olds are allowed to vote in pretty much every party's leadership races and nominations. We have 14-year-olds voting in conservative nominations. I think you can be 13 and vote in nominations. Tina Campbell, it's not a day unless I says, my goodness, dear. But Freeland's apparently talking or something like that in front of people. I don't know why. Let's check in with her.
Canada, and I know all of us have one message for Donald Trump tonight. Canada will never be the 51st state.
What was that delivery? Good job, other Randy, for writing in Randy blocks. And it feels very on brand.
C'est ça. Partout au pays, les Canadiens sont prêts à se battre pour le Canada. Nous sommes prêts à défendre le Canada et le Canada ne deviendra jamais le 51e État. Just in December, people were writing off our Liberal Party. But tonight, we all know that we can, we must, and we will defeat Pierre Poilievre and his maple syrup mega.
Her line delivery here is so bad. Like someone was mentioning, she needs some tea. She needs some like some lozenges or something like that. Yeah, the fixer says 250,000 voters disqualified. There's only 151,000 people, or 154. Only 100 something amount voted in this entire thing. It's pathetic. But she's like, we're going to stop their maple syrup mega. I know. Someone was mentioning I muted. I was muting it on purpose.
Together, we will win. Vive le Canada!
She's such a wine mom. You know what? And you got to love her for it.
Merci.
They're having her speak probably because they know she's gonna lose. My God, I'm gonna turn it off in case this is like copyright. But I'll just have that like playing in the corner or something like that. But yeah, the thing is with all of this, like my own mom was noting that every single time she has like a news notification on her phone, it's something about Mark Carney. And you read it and it's like there's nothing going on with him. There's like no reason to write anything. There's nothing to say. Unless you're willing to report a scandal of his and he's full of scandals, there's nothing to really say about Mark Carney. His campaign has been just devoid of any content. Like his slogans, we're going to spend less but invest more, means nothing. It's contradictory because investment in government terms means spending more taxpayer money. It's maddening. And like they'll like, oh, Mark Carney is like there's constant articles about how Mark Carney is someone who keeps Poilievre up at night, and the Liberals are bouncing back off the momentum of Mark Carney. Like that's not possible because nobody knows who Mark Carney is. Like truly, he has less than 50% name recognition even today. Do you think if you went up to the average, even 40-year-old, and you said, "Do you know who Mark Carney is?" Even if they said yes, do you really think they actually truly know more than one thing about him? And that's the problem, is the Liberals are running into a brick wall right now, running a candidate for prime minister that nobody knows who they are. It's really pathetic. And by the way, good to see we have over 1,000 people watching. You guys are the best. But yeah, I don't see where I don't see any advantages they get from Mark Carney. That you want somebody when you're running a leader, you want someone with character who's almost a little eccentric. Even Poilievre's almost a little eccentric in terms of his mannerisms and the way he speaks and stuff. He's kind of monotone, but in a way that's memorable. He can still bring it, but he's a little bit monotone, and it actually helps. Whereas Mark Carney is like Michael Ignatieff on steroids, except he was calling himself a European instead of American, but he's been moving his business down to America. And yes, the nickname I like for him, Tyler K mentions, Mark's Carney. The man's a complete a complete leftist. Yes, I'm part of the gray sweater team. So even though I'm trashing Mark Carney, guys, the gray sweater is eventually going to infect me through my skin, and I'm going to join the WEF. And yeah, guys, do what John says. Like the video, like the stream. I'll let Karina Gould speak here.
Of you participated, you joined the party, you voted, you volunteered, you made donations, and the Liberal Party of Canada is strong because of each and every one of you.
Well, they shouldn't have donated and given, but you know, people make mistakes, man.
C'est quoi le Parti libéral? C'est les membres et les militants d'un bout de ce pays à l'autre. C'est notre parti qui est fort, c'est notre parti qui est toujours là pour défendre le Canada et défendre les Canadiens.
Canadian federal speeches are always destroyed by the fact that they have
Our
to
party
repeat
is
everything.
made of incredible Canadians who care so deeply about this country, and it is always the Liberal Party of Canada that stands up for Canada and stands up for Canadians. And this leadership campaign has shown that there are so many Canadians willing to stand strong for Canada. Et moi, je suis plein d'inspiration.
While she speaks French, I'm going to mute her because I don't want to listen to this. But like even these speeches are indicative of the fact that the Liberal Party's polling is not actually good. Frank Graves can cook up whatever poll he wants. All the pollsters are coming back to agree with my perspective and the perspective of Abacus data that it was always just going to be a temporary bump because as soon as Trudeau left, there's going to be a bunch of Canadians who are going to look over to Liberals and say, wait, are they going to be good now? And then as people have taken that long, hard look, they're like, they're like literally the same as they always were. And now they're probably going to be voting Conservative even harder. And this speech, this nonsense, empty word speeches that these candidates are giving are indicative of the fact that this is an extremely uninspiring party, that they have nothing to offer other than the idea that we're going to stand up for Canadians against Donald Trump, even though we've been kicking Canadians in the face for years. These people are such hypocrites. They've been actively hurting Canadians with their terrible policies, and then they're going to cast aspersions against Donald Trump. Do I like the tariff idea that he has? No, it's stupid. I think he can get better border security and defense spending without doing blanket tariffs. And the constant flickering on, am I going to do them, flickering off, I'm not going to do them anymore, is silly. But still, these people are still the primary domestic policy problem. It's not to do with the Trump Republicans.
Election and stand up for Canada!
Oh my goodness, everyone's freaking at this place. Warning to always warm up your voice if you're going to go all the way to the room.
Amis libéraux, veuillez
Oh, even her exit music has to be in French. Oh, is Mark Carney going to come out? Okay, guys, get your caffeine ready because Mark Carney is about to speak, and I don't think you can survive without being healthily caffeinated. Either do that or take a nap now because he is going to put you to sleep. Like, without all jokes aside, I'm gonna let him this run a little bit with him talking, and genuinely think if you know anyone in your life who, despite if they already hate conservatives and they always vote liberal no matter what, then that doesn't really matter. But if they are the sort of person who sometimes votes liberal, but it depends, especially if they didn't like Justin Trudeau. Do you know anyone who used to vote liberal who doesn't like Justin Trudeau, who this speech is going to appeal to whatsoever? Because Mark Carney, every time I hear him talk, one, he's a complete liar. So he constantly falls all over himself lying over stuff he doesn't need to lie about, like the what was it? It's not the microchip, but you guys know the semiconductor industry. That was such a stupid little lie of his. But the actual full speeches I've heard are complete nothingness. But I'll let Mark Carney go for a second.
Je veux vous poser quelques questions. Qui est prêt? Qui est prêt à se tenir debout pour le Canada? Qui est prêt? Qui est prêt à aider le Parti libéral à gagner l'élection la plus importante de nos vies? Il faut le faire. Christian est prêt. Frank est prêt. Karina est prêt. Tout le monde dans la salle est prêt. C'est ça. We have to win this election. The big election. And we will stand shoulder to shoulder together to do it. Because the stakes have never been higher.
Dude, usually you say that when a corrupt government's in power, not that the government needs to keep being in power.
As the Liberal Party, the charter, healthcare, childcare, opportunity. We have made this the greatest country in the world. And now...
No, the Liberals made it the greatest country in the world over the last 10 years.
Neighbors want to take us. No way. No way. Impossible. This party has more than quadrupled its membership in the past 2 months. More than 300,000 members.
Wasn't it supposed to be 400,000?
Old liberals. And my definition of old has changed, but old liberals coming back, members who've never been part of a party before, united.
The Conservatives had near 700,000 in theirs in 22.
Which is to make Canada even greater pour tous les Canadiens et Canadiens. Dernier mot. Whatever the result tonight, I'll be proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with my colleague candidat, working with you.
The dying fetus says he
with
has
liberal volunteers across this country in service
he also folds
of Canadians.
One.
Merci tout le monde. À bientôt. Vive le Canada.
Dude, he didn't even give much of a speech. It must be okay. Know what I think happened there? You have to repeat everything in French, and the man knows such limited amount of French that his English speech had to be short so that he was able to remember it all in French. Really? Like, I've heard that speech I was at in Calgary where I got kicked out. They didn't let me in the room. I was not even like they just banned me outright. That at that speech, Mark Carney only went on for about 15 minutes. 15 minutes for a speech is insane. That's so limited. You should be like way more than that. There's some lady probably maybe really reading results. Some acknowledgement thing. So we are not going to listen to that because we don't do that here. Yeah. I'll let it let's play on the side as an indicator for me when I need to start paying attention once again. Hey, guys, we're beating Juno News right now on viewership. I'm not against them, but hey, that's an achievement. Look at us. Had to make a couple changes on the back end. But yeah, Carney doesn't get above 60%. He's in a really bad spot. At the same time, I was even contemplating this. I'll just take this off screen for a second. I was contemplating that if he even does get over 60%, does it matter though? Because he's had every advantage. Team Trudeau's behind him. Every single lefty newspaper has been putting out nonsense, like positive coverage for him. He couldn't barely make a crowd go mild. And like the Toronto Star and the Globe and Mail and all of the CBC, they have all these articles following him day to day as if it's a super exciting campaign. Like oh that yeah. And someone just mentioned, am I reading this side? I am reading this side. There's a lot of people commenting, so I kind of grab stuff as I go. But like the thing is that even if he gets above 60%, he's had so many advantages. It doesn't even matter. It wasn't like an impressive victory like Polyev getting like 68% because his campaign was an absolute juggernaut that he created. This is like he was allowed to win, and if he doesn't get like 90% of the vote, like what did he do? He out fundraised everyone by like 10 times. And somehow he might actually still not do very well, because I think I've showed that his actual leadership numbers, if I have them here, his actual like numbers that from Main Street Research were not great. And maybe like, and I don't even know if the votes are legit because so few people were allowed to vote. I heard that a lot of people were blocked from even voting. What's going on now?
Honor the first.
Okay, we are still going on with the land acknowledgement is still happening. I know so many people who run public events who have just stopped doing land acknowledgements, and I know so many Native people who find them insulting. It's just stupid. It's just like patting you on the head. We have acknowledged you. Now go away. It's Randy's mom. Thank you, Jessica, for acknowledging her existence here. Yes, is that Randy Strong Eagle Man's mom? Yeah, and so isn't it funny that after the last time we had a Trudeau leave office, we also got an unelected prime minister? The first one was John Turner. And when I say unelected, not like you weren't elected in an election. If you went through a leadership race, but you were a sitting MP like Kim Campbell, you are an elected MP based on the rules of the system. The thing is, John Turner wasn't even an MP when he first became the prime minister back in like 84 or something like that, 83. Whereas and now Mark Carney, again, is going to repeat it. The first time Pierre Elliott Trudeau steps down, John Turner becomes the unelected prime minister, gets smashed, by the way. And now we are probably going to repeat history where we have Mark Carney becoming the guy to replace Pierre Elliott Trudeau's son. And he's going to get smashed too. Because, again, when you look at the polls, does anything really indicate that people are happy with the economy now? I really doubt it. And I think that you'd be lying to yourself assuming that Canadians can actually forgive a government this fast. I know we all know people in downtown Toronto who are super pro-liberal still. And by the way, the thing is still going on. So this is why I have it off screen. It is still going on. We all know liberals in downtown Toronto who will never stop voting liberal, and they think Mark Carney's amazing. Most people are not like that, especially working class men who the liberals have completely alienated since 2015. They might have actually even won working class men back in 2015, and now based on a plurality of support. And now they can barely collect like 20% of men to vote for them. The Conservatives are currently clearing half of men, half of all men. And if you whittle that down to working class trades degree holding men, those guys are literally going to Poilievre's Conservatives by like Nicolas Maduro Venezuelan dictatorship numbers because they hate the liberals so much. Oh, thank you, S. Jones, for the $6.99 super chat. Hey, Wyatt, big fan. What could Pierre do to improve his platform or chance at winning? He needs to lower the amount of immigration he is promising. He wants to put a cap of 200,000, 250,000. It should be a cap of 100,000, maybe 125,000. I understand the need for wanting to bring in skilled immigrants still, people who want to build businesses, people who come into the country with a lot of capital. The problem is 200,000, 250,000 PRs is still way more because we have a massive housing deficit. You can't just match the amount of new immigrants to the amount of houses built in the last year because we are currently at a deficit, and that means we will stay in the deficit if we just keep it par. There are so many people who would love to move out of their parents' basements who cannot afford to because of the massive deficit in housing. That would help them out going more hardcore on parental rights issues would really help them out. I would be more explicitly in favor of cutting spending because Canadians right now hate how much the government takes their money for granted. And I think a lot of people are actually excited by the idea a government would get in and significantly cut the budget because the budget is ridiculous. Just how much money we spend every year on complete nonsense. Like the Doge people would have a field day in this country. Oh, thank you, Mary Lou Cleveland, for the $2.79 super chat. Thank you for supporting the show. And I believe I missed another one. Not that I don't answer people's questions. If they, like, by the way, guys, if you want a question answered, if you put it in there a few times, I will eventually probably notice it. I don't need anyone to give me money if you want a question. It's just if you want to. But David Gingina here for a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. He says, I was at the London rally. The energy in the room was absolutely electric. He is talking about the Pierre Poilievre rally. I heard there was around 5,000 people there. No exaggeration. There were over 2,000 people there. I think in the room, I think there was a bunch of people in overflow. But yeah, like that rally demonstrates how kind of pathetic all this is for the Liberals, that they're celebrating getting 151,000 people to vote. They voted online. Voting was easier than ever, and nobody voted in this whole thing. What is this going on now?
Age with love in all of us.
They're doing the woke version. Okay, we don't listen to that stuff, guys. On this channel, we don't listen to the woke in all of us command. Bro Buffett for $2. Thank you. Immigration has eroded our national identity. And the thing is that it's not just an economic problem. It is a cultural problem. When you have too many people showing up to your country who legitimately do not care about participating in the country, all they care about is if somebody is only in your country for economic reasons, I don't want them. I don't want them. We have talent here, even if it technically holds us back a little bit. For the purposes of keeping a country together, you have to only bring in people who truly want to participate in the country. A great example of this, because it's kind of a hyperbolic example, but it proves the point. Japan, if you want to become a Japanese citizen, you must revoke your previous citizenship, be able to speak the language, be able to pass history tests and all that, because they don't want people showing up because I like anime. They want people showing up because they want to live there. They actually like living there, and they're not just a bunch of weirdos. S. Jones, thank you for another $6.99 super chat. Could you start a podcast? There is a gap in Canadian political podcasts. Would love to see you interviewing Pierre or others. Honestly, I don't think federal conservatives would come on my show. And it's frankly because they've probably been instructed not to come on my show, because for all of you who are not yet acquainted with me, they technically kicked me out of a nomination for no reason. I don't hold it against the vast majority of them, but, I think they're always cool on me not knowing if I'm going to attack them. I'm fine with them. I'm willing to just, say, hey, you guys messed up and maybe you'll make it up to me later, but whatever. $5 just to get them to stop singing. Did I make sure to keep that muted? I did keep that muted. They're currently playing a montage of Justin Trudeau on camera. If you guys want to look at these amazing, beautiful images while I'm talking. But yeah, it's pretty bad. Antonio G says, this country is being used and is being used for a long time. Do you know what we're actually very well known for being used as? We are one of the biggest countries for money laundering on the planet because our security is so bad. And I think a lot of politicians actually don't want to solve that problem because maybe you get money for not solving that problem. You never know. I hear there's so much Hamas and Hezbollah money that gets washed through Canada. It's ridiculous. Payo Time says, question, what do you think the Conservatives could do to improve the tourism industry in Canada? Libs have kind of vandalized it the past 10 years. Thanks, Wyatt. I think just lower taxes. I think that the Conservatives, here's another thing they should do to answer that question from before. The Conservatives cannot just lower taxes. They need to, they can't just get rid of the carbon tax. They need to lower taxes across the board. Run on lowering corporate taxes. Are the NDP gonna attack you as corporate shills? Sure, let them. They're stupid. Let them attack you as corporate shills. Lower everyone's income taxes. Do you know in BC, this was a stat from the Fraser Institute, that if you lower the top marginal income tax bracket in British Columbia from 20.5% down to 14%, you would only lose $100 million in the first year, and after 4 years, you might lose $400 million in revenue. And it's because people are taxed so high, lowering taxes by that much really doesn't affect the budget that much because people are so taxed that they don't even want to work anymore. I think Justin Trudeau's going to come up on stage in a second, so I'm going to try and clear some of this stuff. PB Bizzle for the $10 super chat. Huge fan, Wyatt. Love your channel. How could Trudeau use all of this to prolong his leadership? I keep hearing people and Trump say he will. Could they go for months calling it transition? That's an interesting question. I do believe that it probably won't be like tomorrow that we see like Mark Carney with his feet kicked up on the prime minister's desk. It'll maybe be like a week where Trudeau's kind of the prime minister, but kind of not. At the same time, I think that he's already prolonging his leadership because Team Trudeau is puppeteering Mark Carney. Mark Carney is just Team Trudeau. It is Mark Carney doesn't have any. He's a radical, and but he's just a more radical version of Trudeau. But he can't get anything done without Katie Telford and Rob Silver and all these other liberal people in the back. And so that's where he's beholden to. So I think the real way that Trudeau has prolonged his leadership is simply by running his friend Mark Carney. Christian Seal says, for $2, what dinner dish are you suffering through for this? What? Oh, I'm not. What? Dinner dish? Oh, do you mean trying to get to 100,000 subscribers so my friends owe me dinner? I don't know. I think we're going to do like a Brazilian steakhouse or something. If I lose, I owe them all dinner, and if I win, they just owe me dinner. So guys, if you're watching this, of the 2,200 of you, I've not had any viewership like this since I did a couple of Facebook streams during the Freedom Convoy. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Piston Broke 1776 says, for $13.99, thank you for that. Jesus, the liberal experiment is over. And I think this is the last flailing of them on stage here. They are attempting to pretend that they're back, and they can have Frank Grave put out crappy poll after crappy poll pretending they're back, but they're not back. James Rideout says rigged 100%. I think the whole thing was rigged from the beginning because every single donor was probably told that they should only be giving money to Mark. Like, it's a completely fabricated leadership, and it's because the Liberal Party is so collectivist. If Trudeau and Team Trudeau doesn't pick you, there's no grassroots to move with. You could technically win the Liberal Party leadership if you tried hard enough, but the problem is that there's no grassroots base to tap into. Wyatt, what's your favorite president? You look like a dude who said some random name like Chester Arthur. Damn you! I was gonna say Chester Arthur, you jerk. I even own button boots like Chester A. Arthur. I think I showed this the other day to mock myself because I also own expensive shoes like Mark Carney. But yes, I like Chester A. Arthur and like Calvin Coolidge, and I think Teddy Roosevelt's pretty good, except for the big government stuff he started to do a little bit later in life. But I think that was just a mistake. Third to $35 super chat. Thank you for that. I'm overdue for donating to your channel. Thanks for all the hard work. Best boy, Wyatt. Well, thank you. I am happy that I'm best boy. Hey, I'm better channel watch than Twitter. Who is on stage? I literally don't know who's on stage. I only think about it. It's probably somebody who's like involved in running it. Like, I'll unmute for a bit so we can figure this out.
One last time. Please welcome your Prime Minister, my dad, Justin Trudeau.
Oh, your daughter? Okay. She's nice. I think she's nice too. Why it's making some cheddar? Why it's making some cheddar? I kind of. I'll let him talk, and then I'll try and get back to 100 messages after.
Bonsoir, mes amis. Bonsoir, tout le monde. Hello, my friends. You know, as I look out across this room, I have just one question. How's the Liberal Party doing tonight?
Dude, it sounds like he's gotten a hold of Elizabeth May's NyQuil. He sounds so out of it.
Ella Grace, je sais que ces dernières années n'ont pas été faciles pour Zav, Adrien et toi. Merci d'avoir été patient avec moi, même quand j'étais stressé.
He's talking in French. He sounds like he's going to start like 1950s cartoon drunk hiccuping. because like the guy actually seems like he's had too much peppermint schnapps or something. David Clark, 6.99 super chat. My wife and I loved your show. If you watch CBC, the Liberals are measuring the curtains. Yeah, 100%. They actually do think that they think they're going to win. I think it's delusional. But thank you for the 6.99 super chat. They just don't. I think that's because they think they're the default party. They truly believe just the face swap here is enough to save them, and it's just not.
Celui de papa. Je suis fier de vous trois et surtout, je vous aime.
That's a good point. You'll never see
Yeah,
liberals
sit down.
make fun of themselves. They're like disgustingly earnest. That's also.
I can
big
imagine
problem.
that you're all expecting me to stand up and talk about all that we've accomplished together. And don't get me wrong, I am damn proud of what we've done over these past 10 years.
But I can't name anything because, you know, I started to think about what we'd accomplished and I couldn't actually say something.
Tonight is about our future as a party, as a country. Now, I know that we as Liberals, as a government, often get criticized by our friends for not taking a victory lap after we get something big done.
Oh yeah, that's what happened. Guys, the biggest problem with the Liberals is they don't take enough victory laps. They don't take enough credit. They're humble and proud of it. My goodness.
To take the time to reflect on and share the big successes. But not tonight. Not tonight, because when Liberals gather, we're always focused on just one thing: the work that still needs to be done to build a country that stays worthy of all Canadians.
Yes, he's so high right now.
And simply put, that's the work of a lifetime for each and every one of us. It's very simple. Liberals are dedicated to making this country even better, not because we think it's broken, but because we have an opportunity and therefore a responsibility to ensure that Canada stays the best country on earth. Now, these past 10 years have been challenging. Crisis after crisis has been thrown at Canadians.
And scandals, by the way, like can I mention some of these stuff? Like they've been thrown at Canadians, but by who?
We've pulled together. We've stood up for each other, and every single time we've emerged even stronger. And now, as Canadians face from our neighbor an existential challenge, an economic crisis, Canadians are showing exactly what we are made of.
What does that even mean? Like, we're just sitting here waiting to see, does a trade war happen? Does it not? And are you going to cut our taxes? Which they're never going to do. I always hate the idea, like, we've all stood up.
Not, but by proudly embracing who we are. We're a country that knows that standing up for everyone's fundamental rights is the only way to protect our freedom. We're a country that believes no one should be left behind and that everyone should have a real and fair shot at success.
Well, apparently he means that by everyone in the world, because think about how many people have had their jobs taken by subsidized labor.
Economy and a healthy environment.
It's like naming
We're a country that embraces reconciliation and Indigenous peoples as true partners because it is the only path to a shared, prosperous future. On est un pays qui fait rayonner sa culture.
Okay, good. He's speaking French. I can ignore him for a little bit. My goodness. Christian Seal for $2 super chat. Is there a voter enthusiasm poll that a thing? You are right. There is a voter enthusiasm poll. And that's what you can also determine voter enthusiasm by decided voters and leaning voters. Right now, the Conservatives are often over 40%, even with leaning voters not added in. And so that's the big problem for the Liberals is that they are currently, even when they have 30% in a poll, a good 12% of those people aren't really sure if they actually care enough to actually show up for the Liberals, where most like 80% of the people saying they'll vote Liberal or vote Conservative are definitely going to be showing up. Yeah, what a loser, little Castro. Turn off the feed. I have to do it. I would say this is probably fair. Wyatt makes Justin Trudeau look masculine. I'm here to make him look good effectively. S Jones 699 says she kind of bad though. Yeah, well, I think you're talking about Trudeau's daughter. Probably, maybe she doesn't do the best things. I'm willing to think nice things about her. Ayo, what's poppin'? CZK. I think it's that Czech Republic money. What the heck? Respect for being a Coolidge fan. Good luck to you, Canadians from the Czech Republic. Well, thank you. We have the Czech Republic on our side, guys. We got a good endorsement there. I will mute him every time he's speaking French, but at least, hey, guys, it's a historic moment. We got to watch it a little bit. He is sick. Yeah, well, he sounds either sick or drunk, but, I feel like, yeah. What's everyone cheering for here now?
But you here in this room and our fellow Liberals watching across the country, you know all about fighting with grit, with determination when the going gets tough. You remember where we were 15 years ago with just 35 seats in the House. You remember our ups and downs and all those times that people counted us out, all the times they said our party was on its last breath. Like all Canadians, it's when you try to count us out that we Liberals show our true mettle.
Hey, he's stealing my medal line. I always say that people don't have the medal or people have the medal. He can't do this to me. I worked hard to steal that phrase.
2015.
Oh, he's speaking French again. I move on to another one. Joe Duracell says for $20 super chat. Thank you for that, Joe. Let's make this too big to rig. I can help you out with dinner. I like the people. I like to feed people. Thanks, Wyatt. I'm fine for the dinner. I like the bet that I have with my friends because I was the one who made the bet that if I don't get to 100,000 subs by December, I owe all of them dinner. And then I artificially made my payout extremely weak, where I only get like my dinner paid for if I win. So it's mostly just to freak myself out until like every day I'm like, I gotta keep working. I can't take a vacation. Although I do like making videos too. The fellow good for the $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Typical politician, coarse voice, and smooth hands. Talks a little bit too much, I would say, is a good way of describing Justin Trudeau's tenure as prime minister. Talk too much, did too little actual good work. I guarantee you he doesn't even actually really know what they did in government because it's just been career bureaucrats pushing forward most of his legislation.
Easy.
Oh, he's still speaking French. My goodness. Can we just have somebody translate in French in real time for the French people? Let's stop pretending that French people don't also speak English in this country. It's so stupid. Mark Pope, $5 super chat. Thank you for that. What do you think his speech will be before he goes to jail? His probably sound exactly like this. Justin Trudeau is this out of touch and sanctimonious at literally all times. Justin Trudeau does not have the ability to project realness. Is he speaking English again?
For me, every step of the way.
Okay.
For close to 20 years.
Was he thinking his wife?
The extraordinary Adam Scotty and the unstoppable Katie Telford.
By the way, fun fact about the Katie Telford, if you guys weren't aware of how incompetent the federal Conservative Party can be at times, do you know that she runs or founded Crestview Strategies with Rob Silver? And the Conservatives were literally employing Crestview Strategies on their campaigns in 2019 and 2021. They were literally employing Justin Trudeau's chief of staff's firm to help them in an election. 2 elections they lost, by the way. just if in case you didn't think that some of the conservative people are also kind of dumb.
Paul, because you've done it before, liberals will meet this moment.
Like, he does have the same thing like 4 or 5 times now. We're ready. We're going to win. We have the medal. We're going to stand up, and we're going to stand up strong and virile and energetic and other
And make
adjectives for
no mistake,
momentum.
this is a nation-defining moment. Democracy is not a given. Freedom is not a given.
I know, because I take it away all the
Canada
time.
is not a given. None of those happen by accident. None of them will continue without effort. It takes courage. It takes sacrifice. It takes hope and hard work.
He's leaning into these lines like they're great punchlines or whatever. Even the room as they stand around, have you noticed a lot of
60
people are
years ago,
clapping?
standing atop Parliament Hill, Prime Minister Lester B. Pearson first raised our beautiful maple leaf into the Canadian sky. It was much debated at the time, but Pearson knew well what we all know now, that our flag would serve as a unifying symbol that would define the next chapters in our national story. 60 years later, there are still so many more chapters to write. And I can tell you, the world is looking to see what Canadians will do.
I want to know what the original Canadian flag is supposed to look like. Not the red ensign, but like the one that people actually like.
So let us
voted
not
on.
dwell on all the great things we've achieved over the past 10 years. Let us aspire instead to achieve even more over the next 10 years and the decades to come.
Okay, this is complete empty nonsense, so I'm just probably going to shut him down from here because it doesn't matter. This is actually what the original flag was supposed to look like. This is the one that actually Canadians liked. The two blue bars for the 2 C's and then 3 maple leaves for the French, the English, and the Indigenous. Like, it's an actual flag that represents unity. I don't mind the current flag, but the actual history of the current flag, the one that we have, was that the Liberals didn't want there to be the color blue in it because they wanted it to be very symbolically liberal. That's how petty they were. Jacob Snyder for $10. Thank you for that. I'm 50. I've lived through 2 Trudeaus. The next Trudeau is inevitable. Well, I think the Liberal Party is such an empty party that they would be probably willing to try it again in like 20 years or so. So hold on to your hat, Jacob, because we're going to see whatever his son's name is, Alexander Trudeau or whatever, try and come back and say, I am here to achieve what my father could not. I am going to destroy the country completely this time. $2 super chat from programmers. Thank you for that. Huge turnout for Pure in London today. Yeah, and I heard like crazy numbers. Like they filled up an entire room and had like the overflow, and it was like in London, as you're saying. It was not like Toronto, and I know London's a big city, but like you can get a crowd of thousands, bigger than anything Mark Carney can get in a city like a quarter of the size of Mark Carney. Verinder Sidhu, looking forward to the crash in the polls, Wyatt. Well, I think the crash in the polls is already happening for the Liberals. There's a reason why now Frank Graves at Ecos Research is having to pretend, no, everyone's just scared of the truth, and I'm actually still on board. I know what's going on. Oh my goodness, John Chrétien's talking. For the sake of John Chrétien, I'm not going to let him speak in front of you people, because he actually used to be a kind of good prime minister. Like, didn't do everything right, but he cut spending. He did a few things right. I'm not going to let him tarnish his good name in front of your eyes by having you see him speak at this event, this farce. David Clark, $6.99 super chat. Thank you, David. You're a hero of the whole channel so far today. I saw this today. Choose Mark Carney instead of Trudeau is likely changing your shirt after you've crapped your pants. That's a good, and that's a good analogy. If anything, this is here controversial take from me. I like, if I was in the US, obviously I would have probably voted for Donald Trump. But Joe Biden would have still done better than Kamala Harris did. It was inevitable that either one of them would have lost, no matter who the Democrats threw in, because they were just sick of the Democrats. But Joe Biden would have done better than Kamala Harris. And I feel like this is the Trudeau Liberals Kamala Harris moment. They're throwing in Mark Carney because he's buttoned down. He's professional looking. At the same time, he's boring. He's scandal ridden. He's radical. He's like Kamala Harris in so many ways. He sucks at public speaking. He's terrible. He's a complete liar. But I think Joe Biden would have done better than Harris, because why would Scranton Joe do worse in Pennsylvania and the Rust Belt than Kamala California Harris? It's like maddening to me that people thought she was a better candidate. I wanted them to lose, but I also want politics to make sense, and that people actually pick candidates for their parties that make some coherent sense. It's like right now with the Liberals, if these guys were smart, they would have run Frank Bayless, because Frank Bayless is an actual outsider. He's been in office once. One term, he chose to leave. Yes, is he corrupt? Find me a Liberal who isn't corrupt. But at least he actually projects confidence in the business community because he's an actual businessman. If they were smart, they would have done that. Would he still lose to Poilievre? Yes, but we're just talking about the best possible option if I was in the role of trying to get the Liberals to win as many seats as possible. Not that I'd actually sign up to do that. The random perv for $2 super chat says, "Gotta go deal with my greenhouse. You continue." Well, hopefully there's nothing crazy going on in your greenhouse. Hopefully it's just, tomatoes and whatnot. Wintertime, $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Opposite reality, Trudeau. And that's the thing. I don't think anyone who watches that thinks, he's right. We are the best country on the planet. And I can say that, hey, we're the best country because I live here and I like this country and I've never lived anywhere else. But you have to earn the right to, full-throatedly actually say we're the best country. And Mark Carney's already been caught with this. He says our economy's extremely weak. It's been weak for over 4 years. And then the next second he says, we have a better economy than the Americans. Okay, that's just one, not true, because you contradicted yourself saying we were very weak, unless you're trying to say the Americans are even weaker than how weak he thought we were. But still, by any objective measurement, per capita incomes, median incomes, our actual human development index, all this stuff, we are below the Americans on all those fronts. On healthcare, we're below them. On all of that, it's terrible. Prison broke 1776. Thank you for the $6.99 super chat. He's such a narcissist. I keep waiting for him to say, ha ha ha, I'm staying, trying to count us out. That would be a Hollywood moment. I'd like that. I think we'd all, guys, don't lie to me. You would all like Justin Trudeau like a little bit more if he finally had like a Joker moment and just decide, guys, I'm actually staying and I'm burning it all down. All the doors in here are locked, and he just like throws a bunch of like gas canisters out in the room. That would make me like him a little bit more, because at least it would make sense. At least he's not pretending. Kaz, $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Kaz. Seeing Trudeau speak reminds me of Hillary speaking at the DNC. Well, he didn't get that balloon moment where he like looks towards the sky and trying to be like shocked, but maybe Mark Carney will be able to pull that off when he wins. And he's so shocked that he won in a rigged vote. Oh my goodness. Who could have guessed that he would have won when only 151,000 people voted? It still baffles me. 400,000 people were members. Trudeau later said, or someone later said, oh, we have 300,000 members, probably because they kicked a bunch of people out. And even then, they have less than 50% turnout. And it was online voting. Anyone could vote from their pocket, and they couldn't get 50% of people to turn out and vote. If Carney, again, and just this is me repeating it for anyone who joined recently, if Mark Carney gets below 60% on first ballot, he is an embarrassment. Even if he gets below 65% in my estimation, that's embarrassing. All the media was backing him. Other than like conservative commentators at the National Post and independent media, pretty much all the media was backing him. And obviously no liberal viewers will really read the National Post or watch my channel or the Pleb or Juno News or Rebel. So the only media that liberal stalwarts were reading was just, Carney's the greatest. He's so fantastic. He's funny, charming, wise. He actually stopped World War II, don't you know? And then all the other candidates got like a token article. Oh, Frank Bayless. Oh, seems like a nice guy. Oh, Chrystia Freeland. She's a woman or something. Gould. She's also a woman. And that was kind of it. That was like kind of the entire thing. And then they kicked out Chandra Arya and Ruby Dalla. It was completely pathetic. And so even if he wins like 100, like, even if he wins by a large margin, at best it's like, okay, well that's what I expect. And if he comes below expectations, he looks like he's made fun of forever. Mark Scott says $5 super chat. Trudeau has made up the annexing of Canada to retain power. And you are right. That's not going to happen. Do you think Trump wants 2 extra Democratic senators in his country? No one's going to annex Canada. Trump's joking. Do you think that Trump, when he's serious about something, puts out memes about it? He sometimes does it later on to mock people, like he's mocking the Hamas leadership, that unless they basically comply and let him like blow them all up, that he's going to turn Gaza into like a Trump resort. That's funny, but that's after he's done a bunch of serious stuff. With Canada, he hasn't really done anything serious. Every once in a while, he threatens a tariff because I think he wants us to remove a bunch of our tariffs on their supplies, because we actually do have like heavy tariffs on softwood lumber, cheese, dairy, meat products, chicken. We have a lot of tariffs on some of their stuff, so we kind of are hypocritical. Again, we could solve all this by lowering taxes. How about I would love it for the Conservatives to run on a platform that in the first 4 years of their government, we will reduce the overall tax burden by 15%. And then the next 4 years, we'll do another 15%. Basically, reduce the amount of overall taxes paid in the country. And by the way, lowering taxes, and when I mean tax burden, I mean percentages of privately generated income that goes to the government. If we lower taxes, we would actually bring in more government revenues, because we are on the wrong side of the Laffer curve, which suggests that past a certain point, if you keep raising taxes, your revenues will go down because people stop working or they move away. And we are very much on the wrong side of that. Wintertime $5 super chat. Thank you for that. He is speaking longer than the leadership candidates have so far. Yeah, when Jean Chrétien's still there. Jean Chrétien is still talking. I don't know why. I don't know why he is embarrassing himself this way. But for some reason, he is here to like try and reassure moderate liberal voters that this is a party they can vote for, even though Mark Carney, I have had a conservative organizer and a candidate tell me that they have read his book and he has actually cited Karl Marx in some of his writings. Mark Carney. He doesn't do like the full-on bear hug of Karl Marx saying, oh, what a great guy. But it's kind of like that interesting ideas. It's like, yeah, I know you think Karl Marx's ideas are interesting, Mark Carney. That's why I call you Marx Carney. And by the way, never stop saying it. People want to do like, oh, I call him Maximum Carnage or whatever, and that's their nickname for him. It's like, no, it's got to still have the connection to the past name, or it's got to have that kind of, it's like what Trump said in that comedy podcast with Andrew Schultz. It has to have that like it has to have that kind of like really quick off the lips kind of thing. You can't say those other ones where they're like multiple syllables. Marx Carney rolls off the tongue so well, and you can easily say it to somebody and they didn't even know you said it, which is hilarious. Subliminal messaging. Just casually start calling him Marx Carney. And if someone corrects you, you're like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't know it was Mark Carney. I thought it was Marx Carney. And then just move on. It's hilarious. Christian Searle says for a $2 super chat, thank you for that. The Liberal Gaslighting Party of Canada. I think that the other parties would probably try and sue them for that name, considering that the Greens and the NDP and the Bloc have all been pretty on board with the gaslighting of Canadians. And by the way, we all have with Jagmeet Singh pulling out of the no confidence vote commitment he's made. I think he's actually even more dead than he used to be. The only way that I think Jagmeet Singh and the NDP recover before the next election is if Mark Carney just really messes up. He just passes a stupid piece of policy as soon as he gets in, and everyone's like, oh, he's just like Justin. The Conservatives were right. That's the only thing that's really going to save the NDP. And when you're in an election campaign, technically I know Jagmeet could save himself. You just have to basically start repudiating so many of the things he said in the past. Say, I messed up on this. I'm no longer backing the Liberals. They've, done extra. But he's so socialist, he's never going to say any sensible things on policy. And dude, you suck at politics if you're in a position where the only way you're going to succeed is by your opponent messing up more than you. But whatever, I digress. Jacqueline Streisel. I'm sorry if I mispronounced either of your names. I think that first name is Jacqueline, but thank you, Jacqueline, for the $2.79 super chat. I know because I take it away all the time. I cackled. Yeah, and that's the funny thing. Whenever the liberals start talking about how much they value freedom, like, just say abortion. That's all you care about. You literally don't care about free speech unless it's for like Hamas protesters, like, blocking roads in Jewish neighborhoods and punching them when the police aren't looking. That's the only freedom they care about is killing kids in that. I talked to somebody the other day and I was like, well, okay, you're pro-choice, but you're against sex selective, right? You're against late term, right? And they're like, no, I'm not. I'm like, so you're like actually demented and psychotic. And they're like, well, I just think we need to stand up for maximum rights. I'm like, but you don't even care about like having the right to not get like vaccinated for the COVID-19 vaccine. And you're like here standing up for the ability to kill a kid like 2 seconds before it's born. It's like ridiculous. Rad Toys Galaxy says for a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. This guy is Vomit Cannon. I assume you mean Justin Trudeau. This was like 8 minutes ago, and not Jean Chrétien. Stu Omason, a $10 super chat, and there's nothing else there. But you know what? Thank you, Stu Omason. You're a star of the channel. Thank you for that. And Chris G says, hey, Wyatt, appreciate the work you do for the conservative movement. You take action for our country to make the place better. You've inspired me to be more involved in politics in a meaningful way. Thank you, Chris. You understand the mission statement of the channel, because I do these videos in a certain sense to promote, get on an EDA, become a member of a party, even if it's not a particularly great party. As long as you're there pushing back on people doing the wrong thing, that's a great thing. So it's fantastic to hear that you're involved in politics, getting involved in whatever way you can. I would encourage everyone, at least once in your life, and you might hate it, go door knocking once, go leafleting once. So many people do so little that in a riding, if you had 100 people just decide, I'm going to volunteer one day, an entire federal campaign could be taken care of. It's ridiculous how so many campaigns are like 5 guys trying to hit up every single door in a riding in 30 days. But yeah, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to eventually make a video on the BC Conservatives. They are screwing up everything now by kicking up Dallas Brody and alienating all their blue Conservatives. That's another story for another day, and all the people in HQ are massively overpaying themselves. And when I say massively overpaying, I mean if you saw the numbers, you would think they were stealing. Monster000, a $2 super chat, nothing attached to it, but I appreciate you for saying Monster000. What do I say when someone doesn't have anything? I'll just put out a random fact. So now in the background of my videos, I'm going to start putting up like random NES games, because I'm secretly a big Nintendo Entertainment System cartridge collector. And so this is Bubble Bobble today, but maybe next day it's going to be Bayou Billy. Who knows? It's going to be some random game. And now I just have to set that up so that the light doesn't reflect off it in a terrible way. Guys, by the way, Jean Chrétien is still talking. What is he saying? What is he attempting to say here?
So they're going further. Anything the Americans wear, it really hurts by imposing an export tax on oil, gas, potash, steel, aluminum, and electricity.
Okay, it's just anti-American stuff, whatever. I could care less. I only think they think this is doing them some good stuff. I'm trying to grind through super chats, and then I will get back to normal comments too. I'm sorry, but I'm like balancing stuff, guys. Hopefully I'm not a terrible streamer, I guess. I never want to call myself a streamer. It's like calling yourself a Redditor. Marlene, $6.99 super chat. Thank you for that, Marlene. Is he ever going to shut up and go away? I'm sure he's concocting up a new plan with Mark Carney to screw Canadians. No doubt. Again, Team Trudeau is 100% behind Mark Carney. Here's another thing. I guarantee before, I forget, who was that? I'm going to look him up. The guy who said he's 50, Jacob Snyder. When Jacob Snyder earlier on said, I think that I'm going to see another Justin Trudeau in my life, I think what we're going to see is we're going to see Justin Trudeau himself try and make a comeback in 8 years. Justin Trudeau, I believe, is only 52, 53. How couldn't he come back in 8 years and say, you know what, the Conservatives are too far right and I'm here to take the country back for progressives? And if politics ever zigzags back in his direction again, he could pull it off. That's where Canadians aren't stupid enough to vote for, and I don't think Canadians are stupid in general, obviously, but like people aren't stupid enough to let the Liberals back in this election cycle. But every once in a while, especially if a Conservative government gets in and they do good stuff initially, but if there's a corruption scandal or someone does something stupid and there's a massive blow up, you could see a Justin Trudeau lucking himself back into the Liberal leadership if the next two leaders of the party, or maybe Mark Carney loses here and then he loses again, or maybe he steps down, that Trudeau could show back up and people would be like, oh, it's a breath of fresh air. It's Trudeau back. And they're going to let 2016, 2017 nostalgia when the country wasn't that bad wash over them and pretend that that's what Trudeau represents, not the actual latter half of his government. And he sucked from the beginning, just the rot hadn't set in quite yet. But they'll pretend that somehow Trudeau was the sunny ways guys of 2015 and he wasn't the deeply bitter man of 2025 who would never take his boot off of Canadians' necks. Pierre Poilievre, over 34,000 views on X. Meanwhile, CTV coverage of the new Liberal Prime Minister garnered 4,100 views, while CBC reaches 33,000. It's wild how few people watch the CBC or watch anything that the Liberals put out. I saw somebody, let's actually look it up right now. Mark Carney, if you don't know, has a channel. By the way, I'm just doing this to, as an audience. We got to dunk on people for fun. Are we ahead of Juno News? And I like those people, but I just like doing this for fun. They're at 1,000 guys. We're at 2.4 thousand. Good job, everyone. I was just helping actually Kean Bexty, who's one of the co-managers of Juno News. I was helping his dad's campaign in Bow River, David Bexty. David Bexty ended up winning. Great guy. He's going to make a fantastic MP for Bow River. But yeah, those are good people. I want to look at Mark Carney's YouTube channel, though, because it's actually silly how few people he actually has subscribing to him. It's so bad he doesn't even pop up right away. And he's had a lot of videos uploaded. Where is this? I heard he had like over 600 videos or something like that. Do we have this? I can't even find it. Okay. His channel is literally so small, I can't even find it. But Mark Carney's channel, and by the way, John Chrétien is still somehow talking. I am sorry. Mark Carney's channel had like hundreds of videos on it, and he still had only like 1,000 subscribers, and like none of the videos had any viewership. That's the funny thing. So many people who go into politics think, oh, you set up a Facebook page, you set up an Instagram, an X account, and a YouTube channel, and you just put your content there and people find it. Like, no, you have to be very compelling for people to organically find your content as a politician. As like a random YouTuber like myself, it's easier because I can talk about whatever I want, where like a politician can't just sit there and like be a commentator. Although I would actually suggest more politicians should kind of get in the commentary business, turn on a camera every other day. I have so many disagreements with her because she is very progressive on issues in a very silly way. But Michelle Rempel is very good at getting on social media and informing people on what goes on in office. She also likes to attack parents for opposing drag queen story hours, and she also backed canceling Canada Day in 2021. That's neither here nor there, I guess. But she's good at informing people. She is very good at that. And so many politicians just assume, oh, I'm going to put up campaign videos online. Like, stop it. Nobody cares about your campaign videos. You're just sloganeering. Who would you click on a video knowing someone's just going to be putting out scripted rhetoric? Omar for a $2.79 super chat just says, keep up the good work. Well, thank you, Omar. And hopefully my work that I think is good will keep up. Mike Angel for $5. Thank you for that. Do you think the PPC will get a seat in the next election? Can Bernier win Beauce? Bernier's running in Beauce again for some reason. They're not going to win a seat. They're not even going to come close to a single seat. The thing is, the PPC moment was in 2021, which is odd because their moment wasn't in 2019 in their first election, and they blew it back in 2019. The PPC could have become a thing if Bernier concentrated his efforts into winning a single riding or maybe 2 or 3 ridings. In 2019 and 2021, he just shotgunned his efforts everywhere, which in my opinion felt calculated to make it seem like he's working hard and he's trying to win without ever actually risking him actually winning, because I feel like Bernier doesn't know what he would actually do if he got into office. That's the problem, is that I think Bernier didn't really think this all through. I think he assumed he was going to start the PPC, freak out the federal Conservatives, and then they were going to want to merge with him later. I'd heard those deals were going on in the background, them reaching out, say, hey, do you guys want to merge with us? And they're like, we don't need you like at all. And the only reason the PPC had that high watermark was that every other party went insane. The Conservatives didn't really go insane, but they were run by an insane person known as Aaron O'Toole, who thought maybe we should just be the Liberals minus a couple of policies, and that was it. And that's where the PPC got 5%, and they haven't capitalized on it at all. Look at all their by-elections. They basically don't even campaign. And that's the problem. I have no problem with small parties. Heck, I just campaigned for the New Blue Party of Ontario, and they got like 1.82%. That's fine. We knew we weren't going to get a seat, but we tried our hardest to make sure we would maintain most of our vote from last election, even though this was a crappy election to have to run in. It's cold outside. Nobody wanted to vote. The turnout was even lower than last time, and it was already under 50%. And so what we did was we maintained our vote, but New Blue, for the most part, other than the fact that that election was unfair and they were so scrambled for time they couldn't get a lot of candidates on the ballots, in all the ridings they were in, they would try hard every day, hitting doors, talking to people. And the PPC doesn't do that, and it annoys me. Piston broke 1776, 279 super chat. Thank you for that. Says Marx Carlini. Marx Carlini. I don't know what that's a reference to. I will have to see that later. That's probably, I guarantee a bunch of people are getting that reference, but I'm not. 699 super chat, Jen Amb. Thank you for that. What? How many quadruplets are voting in this leadership coronation? And it's Marx Carbon Carney Barker. What? Yeah. How many quadrupeds are voting in this leadership coronation? I don't know. Their definition on who could vote in this election was pretty loose. Like, you could basically vote as long as you could, fog a mirror. But then they start kicking people out after the fact. I think they were actually scared there was enough ironic voters that would have voted for Chrystia Freeland just to keep Carney out, that they started making the process to verify if you're a member or not super cumbersome. So a lot of those people wouldn't want to have given their passport information and whatnot to the Liberals. Spursely Dog 1. This is the problem with YouTube names. They're all messed up. Even my YouTube name on my private account's terrible. Spursely Dog 1. Still believe Trump is not serious about making Canada the 51st state. I don't think he's serious. If he was serious, he would put way more effort to this. He's too busy talking about other things and focusing on domestic policy. I don't think that Trump wants Canada, because I think he frankly likes Canada being another country, because I think Trump likes being able to compete with other countries. And also, he probably wouldn't want to inherit a lot of the problems of Canada at the moment. Not that America doesn't have problems. They have a lot of problems. But why, when you're cleaning up one country's problems, would you suddenly want another country's problems? Scott Hebert here for $2. I've started getting Jag Meat ads here on YouTube. Oh my goodness, it's like saying that is like hearing the words "it's terminal" when you start getting Jag Meat Sing ads on YouTube. I think I've seen some of them, and he's doing this whole "I was raised to stand up to bullies. I am a fighter," and I predicted this as soon as I saw a couple of posts where he said "fighter" a lot. I kept saying he's going to market himself as the tough fighting fighter man who's going to fight Trump. He keeps saying fight and fighter and fighting in every video and post he makes to an embarrassing extent, to the point where any politician, any political organizer would tell you, turn it down a notch and you will be so much more effective. And by the way, John Chrétien is still talking. Okay. My goodness. Okay, we got MinMax 123 for $2 super chat. Imagine Trudeau's kid runs for the CPC. Lol. Yeah, that would be funny. I know there was a Gretzky that was running for the Ontario NDP in Ontario, but I'm not sure if that person actually has any relation to Wayne Gretzky themselves. Is he still talking? Are they going to let John Chrétien go finally? Is he gone?
Canada will never join the United States.
Oh my goodness, he's still talking, and he's talking about the 51st state. No, nobody thinks it's real. I wanted to have. I'm gonna try to have John Bolton on the show, Trump's former national security advisor, because he's a perfect guest. He's not pro-Trump, but he worked with Trump, and he agrees with some of the Trump stuff does, and he doesn't agree with the other stuff. And he's told Canadians, stop focusing on the 51st state stuff. It's a negotiating tactic. It's getting you to take your eyes off the ball. I showed that clip where Trump on a talk show was giving an example of things he's done in negotiations where he walks down, sits down, and he's like, you know, that tie doesn't match that shirt at all. right before he starts negotiating, or, your breath stinks. You gotta, I can give you some, I know a guy who can get you some toothpaste for stuff like that. Like, just mess with somebody right before you go into serious negotiations, because the person's now off their game. And Canada is so off their game because our negotiators, our government is run by amateurs. Our entire foreign policy has sucked when Justin Trudeau was in, because he's the guy saying we should just sit down and have a bilateral discussion. And he's like talking about like terrorists cutting off people's heads in Syria, and he took away all the F-16s that were like targeting ISIS fighters. He literally took our jets out of Syria to protect people, to try and create safe zones so that people wouldn't get their heads chopped off. And instead he sent them winter coats so that they would look fashionable while getting beheaded. Go Post 9.99 super chat. Thank you for that. Wyatt, big fan from Albany, New York. What the heck? I have Albany fans. Hey, by the way, let me know who you like for governor in, 2026? Yeah, 2026. I liked Lee Zeldin. I hope he runs again. And I hope Curtis Sliwa runs for the Republican primary again for New York mayor. I really like him. But you said, do you think the Liberal Party will try and impose their will similar to Europe, where the Conservative parties do great in elections but squeeze them out? The thing in Canada that you have to understand is, even though we're multi-party, we are still first past the post, which is a good thing. I hate proportional representation, because proportional representation, the people who purvey it as such a great system assume that people are rational, and that people are somewhat rational, and that's the problem. People are only sometimes rational. So in Spain, ever since Franco died and they actually started having elections, there has never been a government that wasn't the socialists. Even when the socialists are unpopular, do you know what happens? Those former socialist voters go and vote for a different left-wing party, usually even further to the left or a little bit to the right of the socialists, because people don't want to admit that they voted wrong, that they were voting for a stupid brain-dead party. So they're like, oh, they just messed up. And then they vote for the more left party, and then that party just props up the socialists again. First past the post requires you, basically makes it so that the government is more likely to just be whatever a large portion of the population wants, and it's a coherent party that can govern. I want a government that is a government that's coherent. I don't want an Israeli-style government where there's 50,000 parties involved in the government, and if one of them gets mad, they go to a new election. If you guys follow Israeli politics, or any country that has a proportional representation that doesn't even have a threshold, but even the threshold doesn't seem to matter. And by the way, the threshold's already kind of a nonsense, because the threshold is admitting that you need some barrier to entry. Some of them don't have a barrier to entry at all, like Israel and the Netherlands, and they constantly have elections because nobody can agree to anything. And everyone is incentivized to have small pet issue parties or be as radical as possible. And so you have governments just cobbled together of a socialist party cobbled together with a bunch of center-left parties, or like Germany, where even when the conservatives are in, the Greens and the socialists have to prop them up. Oh, anyways, thank you, Naziza. Your name is actually challenging me here. Nausicaa, Naze, knows. It's a $1 super chat. Naziza. I don't know. I'm befuddled by that name, but thank you for the $1 super chat, even though you have befuddled me. And by the way, John Chrétien has finally stopped talking. What are we going to have now?
President of the party, Sachet Mera.
We'll be getting the results here, so I'll wait a little bit.
Hello, Liberals.
Hi.
How is everyone doing tonight?
Good.
Let me ask that one more time. How are all the Liberals from coast to coast to coast doing tonight?
Oh, shout out to none of
Vraiment,
us.
c'est un plaisir de voir tout le monde. My name is Sachet Mera, President, Liberal Party of Canada. Mon nom est Sachet Mera. Je suis le président du Parti libéral du Canada. And what a night. What a leadership race.
What a leadership race. This thing has been comatose. I've said it before, if this leadership race was a prescription drug, it would come with a warning to not take it before operating heavy machinery. By the way, they should just make the symbol of the Liberal Party, change the logo just to a thick pair of black rimmed glasses. It is a party for hipster metropolitans and people who just want their pension to go up no matter how much damage the other policies do to the country.
Because of all of you tonight, our party is at one of the strongest points in its history.
They're at 27, 28, 29%, sometimes 30%.
In 2 months, we delivered a leadership race that was fair and secure.
2 people got kicked out.
All the members of our national board that showed up and delivered. Please stand up, national board members. Merci aux membres de notre conseil d'administration and to everyone at LPC HQ, from staff across the country. Thank you for your hope. Thank you for your long hours. Thank you for your hard work. You have helped deliver one of the most secure leadership contests in the history of Canada. I also want to thank, of course, our leader, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Well, he always said that like he almost forgot. Like he didn't really want to say it.
J'aimerais prendre un moment pour reconnaître l'héritage important que nous laisse le Premier ministre Justin Trudeau. Monsieur le Premier ministre, pendant plus de 10 ans,
Nope, we do not let French be spoke on this channel. So I'm going to go back to this view so we can at least keep an eye on it. But Monster000 says for a $5 super chat, thank you for that. You're watching along is the only way to sit through this insufferable BS. Yeah, and the only way I would be watching this is if I was actually doing it live, because if not, I'd probably end up, you know, like pausing it, walking out of the room, talking to like somebody, you know, getting tea, forgetting about this, going for a jog. I'm just kidding. I don't jog. I don't work out. But yeah, I would have been doing something else. My goodness. Okay, is he speaking English? You better be.
And Prime Minister, thank you for standing up against bullies and people threatening us to become the 51st state.
How many people has he bullied out of his own party? Him and Chrystia Freeland fed the body of Bill Morneau under a bus, I think, several times just to make sure he was dead. Jody Wilson-Raybould?
Prime Minister, thank you for your leadership to our party and to our country. But most of all, thank you for being a friend to everyone in this room and to Canadians everywhere.
Yeah, guys, isn't he such a friend to you? Doesn't he? He always sends me a Christmas card every year. Me and Justin Trudeau are tight. We go paintballing together because we're ballers. Super good friends. This is the first time you've heard this now. My goodness.
Before we get to the moment that we have all been waiting for, I also want to take a moment to acknowledge all of our amazing candidates.
Like
to
Chandra,
Frank,
or
to
Ruby,
Chrystia, Mark, Karina, merci pour vos incroyables campagnes. Thank you for being so inspiring.
Frank does not look happy.
Merci pour l'inspiration que vous avez donnée à notre parti et aux Canadiens. And thank you to all your staff and volunteers who put their hands up to get involved in this most important race. Everyone should be proud of their hard work. In fact, we have welcomed hundreds of thousands of new registered Liberals from across the country.
And we only had to kill 100,000 of them.
Many of them are with us tonight. Some of you, and I met a few of you for the very first time. Et le momentum positif n'arrête pas ici. And the positive momentum doesn't stop here. We just recently announced our best ever Q1 for grassroots fundraising in the history of the party.
That's literally not impressive at all. Think about it. They've been suffering for donations for like the past 4 or 5 years, and the country's population only goes up. So how couldn't you have your best Q1 ever at the height of Canada's total population, and you're in the middle of a leadership race during Q1? Obviously, you're going to have a good Q1. Q1 is usually the worst quarter for any party's fundraising. We had the worst quarter ever.
Will we win the fight for a strong Canada? Who's with me?
Woo! Woo!
Now, who's ready? Now it's the moment to announce our new leader. Maintenant, c'est le moment d'annoncer notre nouveau chef ou notre nouvelle chef. To hand me the results, I'm happy to invite on stage Beatrice Keller-Raffoul, who has been serving as the Chief Electoral Officer for the vote and protecting the integrity of the process. Pour me remettre les résultats, j'ai le plaisir d'inviter sur la scène Beatrice Keller-Raffoul, qui a joué le rôle d'agente électorale principale pour le vote et à protéger l'intégrité de le processus. Beatrice? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Beatrice.
A reminder that the winner must receive more than 50% of the points allocated in a ballot to win. The following are the results of the first ballot with 151,899 votes cast.
It's going to be Jeb. I feel it. I feel the Jeb energy. Jeb Bush.
In fourth place, Frank Bayliss with 4,038 votes, resulting in 1,014 allocated points, representing 3% of the vote.
That's not too bad for Frank Bayliss. So far, that means Main Street's right on, because they said that he was going to get 3.
In third place, Karina Gould with 4,785 votes, resulting in 1,100 allocated points, representing 3.2% of the vote.
Was Peter?
In second place, Chrystia Freeland with 11,134 votes, resulting in 2,729 allocated points, representing 8% of the vote. In first place, the next Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, with 131,674 votes, resulting in 29,457 allocated points, representing 85.9% of the vote.
Dude, who wants to call complete nonsense on this result? I don't believe he actually got 85%, considering that less than half of people voted. No, people are getting deregistered. Well, I'm going to mute this because apparently they want to play copyright music to get me demonetized. But man, we'll just kind of keep that on the side because I assume he'll make a speech at some point here. That's nonsense. I'm gonna have to melt through some of this stuff. But Sebastian GR says, can you break down the chances of an election? Some people are saying March. I don't think so because they scheduled a by-election in Halifax for April. I think what they're doing is they want to use that as a litmus test for how the party's doing. It's technically a safe seat for them, but you can still gauge how the country shifted based on how the parties do based on their previous elections. Halifax is a riding where the Conservatives only got 12% in 2021. If they suddenly get let's say, 24%, the Liberals will be terrified. Because if they can double their vote in a riding like that, my goodness, couldn't they start winning tons and tons of the GTA? The Fixer says $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Net zero Carney logically has net zero energy. I guess that makes sense. Well, he has to conserve all that. He doesn't want to create emissions. Free Speech Aficionado, just with a $20 super chat. Thank you for that. What other fun facts do I have around on my set? Well, for some reason, I have a Fraser pillow. I don't know why I have a Fraser pillow. And then that's a sheep what are those sort of like needle things? What is it? It's one of those, but like she made it and from scratch, so that's cool. So I try to throw some things people made for me in the set. Fuzz 269 super chat, thank you. Rubber baby bumpers. I don't even know what that means, man. You scare me. That comment wasn't weird. I don't even know. You've thrown me off my game. CR Flames fan says $13.99 super chat. Oh my goodness. Wait. Is Trudeau's daughter at the front again? Whatever. Thanks for what you do, Wyatt. Liberal Party is party of scandals. Talk to your friends and family. Conservatives always being the best party for good jobs. Yeah, and as long as conservatives, they get in and they don't start messing around saying, "Oh, we didn't realize that we had so many spending commitments, we can't cut taxes." They got to cut taxes. They have to slash spending. We're at the 90s level of debt where we at some point actually have to slash spending hard, or we are going to be in another debt crisis. And thank you for the $13.99 super chat. Really great. CR Flames fan. So I assume you're in Calgary, or you're at least in southern Alberta, or maybe you're in Manitoba and you just really like the Flames. CEB says for $5 super chat, the coworker sitting directly behind me at work has a husband that's a liberal MP in my riding. I listen to all of your videos secretly 1 foot away. Lol. Yeah, don't let them find out, or apparently they might cave in your skull based on how you're talking about this. Ayo, what's poppin', Kami Jebka, for the $20 of Czech currency. I don't even know what the conversion rate is, but I'm going to assume it's $1 million. It's $1 million. Be careful with Bolton, establishment neocon. Well, the whole point of bringing him on is he's balanced in the sense that people will disagree with things he says about Trump and people agree with things he says. But I'm getting his take on like trade policy, 51st state stuff, how Canada has failed on foreign policy. Because the thing is, people always say he's an establishment neocon. John Bolton is like the original man in the 2000s who was criticizing the UN every single day as being a worthless organization that all it does is propped up dictatorships, authoritarian governments, and like war criminals, and pretends they're legitimate actors and that we should just defund it. He literally every single day, he was the UN representative under George W. Bush, would just stand up and basically say, "This is a useless institution. Also, you're a criminal." And then he would just sit back down. He actually is kind of amazing at times. Wintertime, $5 super chat. The 51st state thing is an old joke that some Americans have made online since the beginning of the internet. It's not real. And honestly, I don't understand some of the Canadians who are then like, no, we should be the 51st state, and we're going to send a delegation down to the United States. Stop it. No. Why? Why do the thing is too? Why from just a perspective of trying to make the world a better place, you actually don't want all your eggs in one basket. If anything, it would actually be good for more countries to exist, not less, because you want to divide how bad things can get between different jurisdictions. Because the thing is, if ever, like, let's just pretend the world is just one big country. Sounds bad and scary, and I would agree. Could, in theory, it all be a great country and we pass great policies and everyone lives well and whatnot? Sure. Probably not going to happen. And then if the worst thing happens, guess what? The worst thing then happens literally everywhere. $2 super chat from Platinum Sniper. Chrétien is stuffing more votes for Marx. Yeah, we are a bit behind to the point where he hadn't finished yet back when I'm still reading this stuff. But thank you for that $2 super chat, Platinum Sniper. Jackson Jacob, civil gentleman, what do you think happens if the CPC wins a minority government? Do you think Pierre can still become the prime minister? Yes, I think the Bloc would probably support him at that point, which could become a bit hairy. But thank you for that. I will talk a little bit more about that in a second, but I'll let Mark speak.
This room is strong. This room is Canada strong. Thank you, Cleo. Thank you, Cleo. And to my wife, Diana, our children, Cleo, Tess, Amelia, and Sasha. Without your support, I wouldn't be standing here.
He's so bad at even ending a line for people to clap.
And like the Prime Minister Without your examples,
Mr. Burns
I wouldn't have a
speaking.
purpose. And
Yes, without Trudeau screwing up so bad, he
and
wouldn't
without
have it a brief
without your
run.
love, I wouldn't have the strength that I need for what lies ahead. Thank you. Monsieur Chrétien, vous énergez encore les troupes et les partisans, les militants du Parti libéral comme personne ne peut le faire. Vous avez marqué l'histoire en prenant des décisions courageuses. Vous avez montré à nos alliés que le Canada se tiendra toujours debout pour ce qui est juste. Et vous êtes une source d'inspiration pour tous les Canadiens et Canadiennes.
Even John Chrétien doesn't know what he just did up there.
Family to become liberals, including my father to run as a liberal candidate in Alberta in the 1980s.
Okay, he's going to say the most boring thing you've ever heard in your life, so I would rather talk about what Maxime Gagan says here. He says, "What WTF, 151,000 votes on 400,000 memberships." Well, remember when Mark Carney entered the room at the start of this event, or somebody did, they said, we had over 300,000 members. And I think it's because they started whacking members. They just started getting rid of members. And also they made the voting process so clunky that so many people just didn't vote. And by the way, that is going to affect the campaigns with the least amount of money, who have the least amount of time to help their members figure out how to vote on the app. And by the way, when it becomes electronic voting and the only record you have is that the computer says so, and the party was so clearly behind him, I think they basically gave him an outcome because they wanted to outdo Mark Carney. Like they wanted to outdo Pierre Poilievre's voter count. Justin Trudeau looks like he wants to kill himself there for a second. Although he shouldn't be that sad. He can probably come back in 8 years. Not that he should. He should just go surfing for the rest of his life and not bother us. But they wanted to outdo Poilievre because Poilievre got like 68% of the vote at the Conservative leadership, which was very good. It was very competitive as a leadership race. And Mark Carney, I don't believe that Karina Gould only got 3%, that Frank Baylis only got 3%. How did Frank Baylis get almost as many votes as Karina Gould, despite the fact that his campaign got like no attention and Karina Gould's was getting tons of attention comparatively? Maybe it's that she just sucks at campaigning. And then like all the polls I'd seen only put Carney at like 38% and then 40 and then 43. I thought he was going to win, but like goodness, 85%. I don't feel like that makes sense. I'm trying to get to the bottom. Gould was only 3.1% or 3.4. It was Chrystia Freeland at 8, wasn't it? That's how bad it was. Because think about it, added up, 8 plus 6 is 13, and that's what 13 point something, and that's how he had 85, like, or 86.4 or whatever. Is he saying anything interesting now? Challenge impossible for Mark Carney.
Celui de servir.
I was talking about French. No, we don't do that. We don't do that here. Brandor $2 super chat says this feels like theater, not a serious event. Absolutely, this is basically just rehearsed to make him look like a juggernaut of a politician, despite the fact that the man has zero charisma. $2 super chat from Steffi M. Thank you for that. Thank you for your hard work, Wyatt. I try and also go out and do things in real life, because I feel like if you don't actually head out and like door knock in real life, you end up losing contact with how people actually vote. Because like I'm a very conservative person, but I can speak in such a way where somebody on the left will understand me, who's obviously not like a political radical, but like, you know, someone who's on the center left, moderate middle class voter who maybe doesn't think they're a conservative. I can explain conservative policy and they'll agree with me, and I don't have to water down the policy. I can explain why a 100,000 cap on permanent residence, new immigration, is perfectly reasonable. And I have tons of people be like, you know, that does make sense. Fair enough. Carney Asada. $2 super chat from Mark Scott. Carney Asada. Platinum Sniper $5 super chat. 85%. I am stunned they actually rigged it shamelessly, taking points from Winnie the Pooh. Yeah. Talking points from Winnie the talking points from Winnie or taking points? Yeah, it's taking points from Winnie the Pooh, Mr. Xi Jinping. Mark Scott has $2 super chat for the nickname Christia Free Lunatic. $2 super chat from Mark Scott. Again, Doug Ford Lardo. I would just call him Fat Trudeau because that's a good one from that Daniel Boardman came up with. Okay, but let's see. Is he saying something interesting now?
Now, to give a sense of that service, I'm going to quote from a message that I and Christia and Karina and Frank, the four of us, received from someone called Bob Zettel. Now, Bob, full disclosure, I know the leader of the opposition's into full disclosure, so I'm going to full disclosure. Full disclosure, just want to get this on the table.
Dude, that was such a lame joke.
Goes to my church.
Dude,
actually, I go to Bob's church because he goes there a lot more frequently than I do.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't think you guys actually go to church.
4 candidates. And he said, I quote, "Right now, everyone sees the main threat as the Trump tariffs. But the far greater challenge will be, as it always has been, to foster unity and a sense of the common good. There are those who will seek power by dividing us." We'll get to that later on. And we being the people of Canada, we need you, my fellow candidates, myself, to continue in positions of leadership to promote a united Canada, a commitment to common good and the respect and the rule of law throughout the world. See, I quote Bob because right now all Canadians are being asked to serve in their own ways. We're all being called to stand up for each other and for the Canadian way of life. So let me ask you, who's ready? Pierre Claire. Who's ready to stand up for Canada with me? 100%. Yes.
This is so meandering.
Yes.
Like it took forever for him to get to that point where he just made that.
Yes, Canada.
And Bob.
Yes, Canada. The Liberal Party is united and strong and ready to fight to build an even better country.
The problem is the unity is not the problem. And this is what I tell parties all the time. Nobody cares how unified you are. People care about if your ideas are good and if you're going to implement them.
For this moment. 2 months ago, I put up my hand to run for leader because I felt we needed big changes. But big changes guided by strong Canadian values. The values I learned at the dinner table from my parents, Bob and Verley, and my 3 siblings, Brenda, Sean, and Brian. Values that I learned at the hockey rinks of Edmonton from my coaches, such as Stormin Norman Lee. He exists. We didn't call him that to his face, by the way, but that was his. My parents were teachers, and they stressed the importance of hard work, of community, and of tolerance.
He's like an extra. This is like the speech you would write for like a TV movie you didn't try too hard on, and you just need some guy who's in the background while there's like a fight scene going on, giving a very boring political speech before everyone like scrambles because the gunshots are going off. Okay, I'm going to move on a little bit, let him keep talking, like with muted, because I don't care. Tracy Noble, $13.99 super chat. Minority or majority government was your opinion? I think it's going to be a conservative majority. I think Abacus data is right on the money, showing the Conservatives at around anywhere from 10 plus in the polls to 16%. People do not forgive governments who fail on the economy this hard just because there's a trade situation going on. Because it's not like the Conservatives are in favor of tariffs and they want Canada's economy to get trashed. So it's not like the Liberals even win on that issue. Poilievre can easily make the case that these guys are weaklings. They've lost in trade negotiations to Trump in the past, and their record on domestic policy means that they are completely, unequipped to fight a trade war. That can easily happen. And then every other top issue right now in politics in Canada is all pro-conservative. It's all stuff that benefits the conservatives more. And I don't even think the Trump issue, the trade issue, really stays as the top election issue over the next 3 or 4 months. But thank you for the $13.99 super chat, Tracy Noble. Piston Broke 1776 says, shameless plug, my time, my conservative TikTok and X, S takes libs and NDP. I will actually link. I actually went when the speech was going on. Here is the link to that guy's X if you guys all want to follow Piston here, who has been donating a decent amount to the thing. I'll put it there twice so you guys can go follow him. I'm not posting your TikTok because I don't use TikTok, so I can't look it up. You know, get off TikTok, dude. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of TikTok, obviously. Oh, and we are finally to the bottom of the super chats, I actually think. Mark Scott, $2 super chat. Why are they talking about their accomplishments? Yeah, well, I don't know. I guess they mythically have created accomplishments in their own heads that they've that they have. Like, we've made ourselves stronger, and they can only use vague terms because they can't cite numbers. They can't say the average Canadian is making this much more money than they were 10 years ago, because they're not. The average Canadian is only making like marginally more money per capita since 2015, but when you add in inflation, they're not at all. Oh, hey, 169 super chat from Yan Pro, and it's just a picture of a cat. Thank you, Yan Pro, for sending us this magnificent picture of a cat. Okay, let's see. Is Mark Carney saying something interesting? My guess is no.
Canada needs more of this type of change. Change that puts more money in people's pockets. Change that makes our companies more competitive. Change that builds the strongest economy in the G7.
Apparently Ariel's saying here that he said he's going to cancel the carbon tax, and I think we all know what that means. He's just going to rebrand it. Oh, we're going to tax big polluters instead, which means you still pay the carbon tax. Everyone pays every tax. There's no such thing as a tax that everyone doesn't pay, because any money being taken out of the private sector and given to the government means that prices have to go up to make up for the fact that people keep less of their own money.
But as the Prime Minister just said, unjustified tariffs on what we build, on what we sell, on how we make a living. He's attacking Canadian families, workers, and businesses, and we cannot let him succeed. And we won't. We won't. I am proud of the response of Canadians who are making their voices heard and their wallets felt. I am grateful for how our provinces are stepping up to the fight, because when we are united, we are Canada strong.
He doesn't lean into any of these lines properly. You know what I mean? Like, let's forget the fact that he's a liar and that all his policies.
The Canadian government has rightly retaliated and is rightly retaliating with our own tariffs that will have maximum impact in the United States and minimum impact here in Canada. And my government will keep our tariffs on until the Americans show us respect. And until they can join us in making credible and reliable commitments to free and fair trade. As Krista did. Yeah. And in the meantime, we will ensure.
He just doesn't know how to deliver a speech. Again, okay, I just want to say this from the perspective of, like, who cares? You're not liberal. This is just a man giving a speech, and you don't care what his ideology is. He doesn't know how to lean into the lines. There's a few times where he mentioned, well, he said something, and then he pauses for like 5 seconds. I think he assumed they were going to clap. And then he talked a bit further, and he said, we are going to retaliate until they give us respect. And then people clapped. Like, how did you not know that that was the actual line people were waiting for? It's just bad. It's just badly written the way he's doing this. He just doesn't know how to really write a speech or do anything that gives gravitas. Oh, actually, I didn't even get to the bottom of the super chats. Oh my goodness, I'm still so far behind. 279 from Miles. Canadians aren't smart. They might fall for Carney. I really don't think so. I just think at the end of the day, anyone who was thinking about, again, even on the polls I show where I see the Liberals coming up to like 32% and they're only 8% behind the Conservatives. When you look at it, that, and you look at any of the measures of like voter enthusiasm, which there's a few different ways of gauging voter enthusiasm, you can ask, because sometimes they include people who are leaning towards a certain party as part of their percentage. But the Liberals are having to rely on a lot of leaners right now. In fact, another one was that there is like, I think they calculated like over 58% anti-liberal voters. And that doesn't mean the rest of them. It was like 55% anti-liberal voters. But if you add up all the other ones, it's not like they're pro-liberal. Some of them are like, I think it was like 9% were hardcore liberal. 9% were soft liberal, and then like 20% of the voters were just looking for some change. They might go back liberal, they might go elsewhere. So the Liberals to win are relying on like a massive section of voters who don't really think they're going to show up. And then there was a bunch of undecided people. Even if you assume they would win all of that, they would be definitely winning a minority, but they have to sweep the board of a bunch of voters who are not even voting for them yet, but maybe will kind of consider it kind of. But they'll still vote Conservative too. That's the problem. Does he have any other things going on here?
Ever will be part of America in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think we've heard 20 people say they're not going to be part of America. Yeah, nobody asked.
Look, we didn't ask for this fight. We didn't ask for this fight. The Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves. So the Americans, they should make no mistake, in trade as in hockey, Canada will win. Aux Américains, je vous dis, comme au hockey, nous allons gagner. Mais cette victoire ne sera pas facile.
Oh my goodness. Okay. This is what makes Canada annoying, is that you have to keep going back and forth and turning off the video because people are talking about, you have to keep turning the video off because they keep speaking French. AD 1992 says $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Such an uninspiring speech. Why do you see the polls playing out in the coming? How do you see the polls playing out in the coming weeks? Minus Ecos. I think that we're going to see the Conservative lead start to widen again. Leger already showed that. Their previous poll before their last one showed that the gap was only 3%. And then their last one showed it's actually 13% now. I think that what we had seen for the longest time was a response bias. We may see another bump for the Liberals maybe this week because of Carney being the leader. But once that fact settles in, I think most pollsters are going to find that a lot of Canadians are like, wait, who's the leader? And then they're going to be like, look into him. They're like, oh, well, I don't care about him. Or they're going to find out he's like a corrupt or a liar. And then they're going to be like, well, what was the point of even swapping him out for Trudeau? Plus, once people realize he was the economic advisor for 4 years, everything Trudeau and Freeland did was his advice for the last 4 to 5 years. That's not going to play out very well in the debate stage when Poilievre can press him on all of these policies that failed and that he cannot divorce himself from. Anthony Salerno says for a $5 super chat, how does Mark Carney stand without a spine? I don't know, but maybe that is a mystery for the ages. He might be a magician holding himself up through telekinesis. Billy Featherbottom for $2 says, do you think Carney will end up like Kerry in 2004? That's a good example. Yeah, it could be like Kerry in 2004, where it seems like it could be close, and then he absolutely gets blown out at the end. Because although the problem is, it's not like a George W. Bush situation where George W. Bush was unpopular for a bunch of domestic issues, but then he won because of foreign policy, because of security moms. I think that what we're seeing with Carney is that it's more of a repeat of Kim Campbell with the PCs, is that the PC party got super unpopular under Mulroney in 1992-3, and they thought they could just re-roll the dice on a new leader. And she actually at one point was outpolling Jean Chrétien in 1993 because, oh, hey, new leader, maybe this is the party for us again. Hey, a woman's the leader. First prime minister who's a woman. And then they immediately crashed and burned because as soon as people started actually hearing her listen, they're like, oh yeah, I hate the or I hate the PC party. And I think that what we're going to have is the whole wait a minute moment. I hate the Liberal Party as soon as they actually see Mark Carney perform, especially because you're going to see the very weird play acting where he's the prime minister, but he's also not, where he's elected as the leader and he's technically serving as the prime minister, but he's not allowed into the actual House of Commons. He's the prime minister who's in the prime minister's office, but he can't do anything else. And I feel like that really rubs people the wrong way. It didn't help John Turner in 1984, and I don't think it's going to help not Jean Chrétien. It's not going to help Mark Carney this time. Woody Doppelganger for $10 super chat says, okay, the Liberals had their fun at our expense. This is beyond insipid. The Liberals don't deserve to place this man into the PMO. He didn't give this man any mandate, and he didn't want we didn't give this man any mandate, and we don't want him. And I think you're going to find a lot of Liberals, too. A lot of Trudeau progressives are probably actually going to resent the fact that he's now the leader, because even though he's technically more radical than Trudeau on a lot of policy fronts, the problem is that a lot of people associate Trudeau with the progressive stuff and him with the fiscal stuff. So I could see a lot of progressive orange Liberals staying home because they're like, oh, I can't believe you got rid of Trudeau. Although, again, it's a collectivist party, and I find that it almost doesn't matter who the leader is. But I do know there are a lot of people who are mad that Trudeau was even ever made to step down because, well, he's been doing a great job, hasn't we? Because that's been the Liberal propaganda for years, is that ignore all the problems, we're actually doing super fantastic.
Are the most powerful tool we've ever invented. They can find solutions to our greatest problems. And when the private sector, when the markets are governed well, they deliver great jobs and stronger growth faster than anything. But markets are also indifferent to human suffering, and they are blind to our greatest needs. So when they're not governed well, or not at all, they will deliver enormous wealth for the lucky few and hard times for the rest. And in this crisis, we must help those who are hit hardest by the American tariffs while we build our strength here at home. That's the right thing to do. That's the fair thing to do. That is the Canadian thing to do. That is what makes us strong. So Donald Trump thinks he can weaken us with his plan to divide and conquer. Pierre Poilievre's plan will leave us divided and ready to be conquered. Because a person who worships at the altar of Donald Trump will kneel before him, not stand up to him.
What is that based on? What has Poilievre done that would suggest he worships at the altar of Donald Trump? And they're going to say, oh, here's a policy that Trump supports, and here's a policy that Pierre Poilievre supports, and they're similar. And it's like, yeah, it's called conservative policy. Like, what is this? He worships at the altar of Donald Trump. Even if they agreed on everything, that doesn't mean literally anything.
Division won't bring down the price of groceries. Division won't make Canada strong.
Oh my goodness, I hate unity language.
Voilà où mène.
I think we can say this is the worst speech we've ever heard. There's literally nothing going on. I'm just going to stop it from here because there's nothing else to talk about. I don't see how this guy I don't see how this guy is going to excite anyone. This is just dull. VFR 1200 for $2. Thank you for that. Says Governor Trudeau out. Who will run the 51st state? I know. Dang it. We were out without a governor. Who's going to be our senators now? But yeah, maybe this is like a good time to wrap up too, because it's been like an hour and 53 minutes of watching this garbage. But yeah. So this, yeah, Stu Omsen says the so hypocritical from the party of division. And yeah, the thing is that the party has been dividing people against each other. So has been dividing Canadians against each other. And now they're going to say, hey, we all have to be unified, even though we were telling people to be mad at anyone who wasn't getting vaccinated. And you had to be like, you know, like there was racists out there and everyone who doesn't like us are racist and stuff. Woody Doppelganger says, this fear-mongering is disgusting from the Liberals. Thank you for the $10 super chat, by the way, Woody Doppelganger. I don't blame Donald Trump for the state we are in. I blame the Liberals NDP. Trump has openly said he doesn't like Pierre. And yeah, the thing is, the Liberals don't care if he said that. They're just going to motor on however they want. I missed this one almost. Joe Dame says, for $5, thank you, Joe. How does Carney stand up without a spine? Easy, he has jag meat to prop him up. Thank you for answering the previous guy's question about how Mark Carney's able to pull off that magic trick. But then, how does Jagmeet Singh prop him up without his own spine? That's the thing is too, like, if you're able to watch this and be excited, it's because you want to be excited. And that's the problem. There are going to be genuine people who are actually excited for Mark Carney because they want to be excited. Anyone can pretend to themselves that they like a guy, but it's more so, does the average person who doesn't watch a lot of politics, do they care? And I would say that the smell test is saying, no, nobody cares about Mark Carney. Tina Campbell, thanks for hosting the party, Wyatt, but yes, it was garbage, lol. Sorry, it wasn't me. I wasn't the one who organized the Liberal leadership. Anita D, $6.99 super chat. Thank you for that. Carney is so boring. I can't wait to see Pierre destroy him in the debates, especially in French. Yeah, the French debates are going to be widely viewed because his French isn't bad. Obviously, nobody whose French is like garbage is exactly going to run for political office other than, Chandra Arya. But, well, in terms of the prime ministership. But the thing is, his French is kind of like crusty enough, it's rusty enough. I think that you're going to have a lot of Quebecers just go vote Bloc Québécois even harder, which is perfectly fine by me as a conservative. I don't mind what the Quebecers vote for as long as you, I don't mind what the Quebecers vote for as long as it isn't the Liberals. Bill Lowen says, will there be debates though? Well, you never know. They could always find some reason to not debate. I think Mark Carney's robotic enough he can get through a debate. He just won't do very well, especially if Poilievre puts him in a corner, because you know that if Poilievre puts him in a corner, Poilievre's not the type of man to swing one punch and then move on. He's just going to keep hammering on a topic if it's showing that there's a bunch of mush there and Carney doesn't know what he's doing. And I would just constantly bring them up. You were advising these policies for 4 years. You were wanting to stay the course on this garbage for 4 years. And now you're suddenly saying, no, we need to make change. And I don't even know how any of your change is any different from what you were doing before, other than some name swaps to your policies. I think that would be a good way of doing stuff. Daniel Paquet for $10. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right or not. Sorry, Daniel Paquet. I'm gonna say that's assuming it's true because you said you're francophone, and I put a little bit of a French accent on that. As a francophone, I am listening to Mark Carney's coronation speech. A prime minister and a governor general unable to hold a conversation in French. The Liberal Party's betrayal of French speakers. So yes, so straight out of the mouth or the typed message of a francophone. Yes, his French is a little clunky. Srikant Agarwal for the $2 super chat. Agarwal. I think it's Agarwal. I'm trying to pronounce things properly. But thank you for the $2 super chat. Thank you for sustaining the channel. But I'm probably going to wrap this up in like literally a couple minutes here. So I would just say do not donate anything because I don't want it to end the stream and then I wasn't able to read something. But yeah, so I just think I'm going to do more polling videos in the next few days. We will see how things shake out. I think that this leadership race is going to kind of become a scandal because, Jamie C is right. 85% for a guy nobody under 35 has heard of. Even Abacus Data did a poll at the beginning of the leadership race. Only 25% of people knew Mark Carney's name or knew his face and could match the two up. He is not a household name, and a leadership in just over 2 months is not going to change things. Nobody's going to suddenly have warm feelings for Mark Carney after just 2 months. VFR 1200 says 51st state have any interest poll. I wouldn't mind seeing if there was interest in the 51st state in a poll. I don't think it's very high. I'm just wondering if it's 1% or is it now 6% in somewhere like Alberta, because you could see enough frustrated farmers, especially, who they're willing to just do it as the nuclear button option in a poll. Even if they don't actually support it, in a poll, they're willing to hit that button to register their displeasure. But yeah, you get that a lot. Woody Doppelganger, $2 super chat. When do you think we will have an election? I think we are waiting until late summer, like August, September, or October. Again, we have an April by-election in Halifax. I actually want to quickly show that. Halifax on 338. This is the current polling or the current projections for Halifax on 338. The Liberals will be using this riding as a litmus test. It's a likely riding for the Liberals to win. They currently have the riding, I believe, and they're just filling it in a by-election. But this is the polling over time. That's when Trudeau resigned. The Conservatives were actually in the mid-20s. If the by-election is held and the Conservatives punch into the mid-20s again, like they come up a little bit, that's when you're going to, I think that's when you're going to see the panic set in for the Liberals. They realize that are not actually polling better. And then they are going to probably want to figure out a way of delaying the election until October. They can technically wait until October, obviously, but they need an excuse to justify it in order to have waiting for the next election not do them too much damage, because so many Canadians, left and right, want the new election. Obviously, a lot of Liberals don't want the new election because they're scared of losing, but there's a significant amount of them who think, yes, let's go to the polls now and beat Pierre Poilievre. And if if they have to keep waiting, they're like, oh, the party doesn't think they can win, and that's a bad look. Julia V, thank you, Wyatt, for hosting. Well, thank you, Julia, for showing up. Thank you, everyone, for watching tonight. I'm going to try and move on now. I'll see you guys in another video. I might even make a video in a couple of hours here as a wrap-up for what just went on. But until next time, guys, thanks for subscribing to the channel. Thanks to you for patronizing me. And, see you all next time. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, do all that great stuff. Leave a comment. See ya.